Robocop. Who is he? What is he? Where does he come from? He is OCP's newest soldier in their revolutionary crime management program. OCP spokesman claimed that the fearless machine has crooks on the run in Old Detroit. Today, kids at Lee Iacocca Elementary School got to meet in person what their parents only read about in comic books.
Robo, excuse me, Robo. Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.
More fighting in the Mexican crisis today when American troops participated in a joint raid with Mexican nationals against rebel rocket positions in Acapulco. Now this.
Red alert. Red alert. Red alert.
You crossed my line of death.
You haven't dismantled your MX stockpile.
Pakistan is threatening my border.
That's it, Buster. No more military aid.
Nuke 'em. Get them before they get you. Another quality home game from Butler Brothers.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
Coming to you live from Outpost 31 deep in Antarctica. At least that's how it feels to us. It is the High Tech Low Life program with your hosts, Eric and Josh. I'm Eric.
And I'm Josh.
Currently buried under about 8 inches of the white stuff, looking to be more by the end of the day. So if this doesn't get to you, it's because this recording got cut off halfway through by a power outage.
Yeah, I was just looking at the weather on my phone, and it looks like we're supposed to be getting about 4 to 7 more inches over the course of the day. So cool times.
4 to 7, the perfect amount. So, yeah, we're not going to talk about the weather, but it is the most interesting thing happening here, so we got to mention it.
Let's see, is it? Yeah, probably is.
Yeah, not much else going on. Hey, this is our first, it's not our first episode of the year, but it's our first, project.
Recording of the year?
First recording of the year, yeah. So
yeah.
Banging in 2025 with Robocop, and that's pretty exciting.
It really is. Yeah, otherwise, it's looking like 2025 is just going to be another one of the 2020s, which I've decided I'm just beginning to think that the 2020s are not my decade.
Yeah. Maybe the 3020s will be yours.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
It hasn't been great.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm far from alone in that.
Yeah.
But
the teens weren't fantastic either.
The teens
were better.
They had some real high points.
Yeah. I don't know. We're only halfway through. Maybe the back half is going to bring it home for you.
Possibly. I don't see any likelihood of that happening based on, my life and the world, but sure.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day, it's really frustrating that I have to spend the second half of my 40s just checking my watch, waiting for it to be over because of recent elections that took place. But
yeah.
Oh, well, here we are. I'm going to try not to do that, though. It's when you're living under a fascist regime, it is an act of rebellion to experience joy. And therefore, I feel like it's all of our duties to at least attempt in any way possible to feel good vibes whenever we can, even though it seems really unlikely at times.
I think that's a really good position to take. And yeah, I think that's honestly a solid part of why I have continued to do this show.
Yeah.
Simply because it is like this, I don't know, 3 to 8 hours, depending on the project.
Yeah.
Kind of tends to be one of the highlights of my week.
Yeah, I agree. And the response we usually get from people is frosting on top of that cake as well.
Yeah. It's so yeah. We'll stick it out as long as we can, people.
Yeah, as long as they keep making cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could always pivot.
Oh, I don't know about that. We've never done that before.
We've got some ideas. Let's talk about dystopia. Once again, we're kind of in a... I mean, no, actually, we're not. We had an incredibly dystopian week. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Several things exploded. And people
literally
drove in the crowds.
And yeah. I would say, first off, just in terms of time-wise, while we were recording last week's episode, 39th President Jimmy Carter, probably the only president of my lifetime that I would maybe argue doesn't deserve the death penalty for war crimes.
Yeah. Probably
died.
Still does. Like, it's 50-50. He's not getting off easy.
No. I mean, he almost certain, he certainly, deserves to be jailed for war crimes.
Yeah.
But
right.
I don't know that he deserves to die for war crimes, or deserved to, because he is now dead at 100 years old. So
yeah, it's a low bar when you're talking American presidents.
Oh God.
I wouldn't
floor.
say his death is dystopian. He was insanely old.
Yeah. I would agree, but it is part of the bigger political news.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. When the bar's so low, heroes come in odd packages, and I hate to... There's been a lot of things said about him, and I don't know what we could add, but
yeah.
I guess RIP to a real one.
Yeah, I mean, as far as presidents go, he seemed like a fairly nice guy.
Yeah.
I was talking to Melissa earlier in the week, and she mentioned his death, and I was like, yeah, the thing is, like, Carter, I have a lot of fundamental disagreements with a lot of his decisions and policy and stuff like that. But those are broadly, like, actual reasonable, like, his positions are not unreasonable in my mind, as opposed to virtually all the others whose positions are fist fightable.
Yeah. Also, our last, like, really, like, truly Christian president, I would think. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, they all say they are, but he's the last one that I actually believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably accurate, which is arguably one of the problems with him. He, kind of pushed the Democratic Party into the church. But
it's funny that he got beat by Reagan, who was very definitely not, but yet courted that vote somehow, effectively, with the help of certain religious grifters.
Yes, and of course, good old Lee Atwater.
Yeah, good stuff that we don't need to get into any deeper, because a Cybertruck exploded outside of Trump Tower in Las Vegas, where I just was not that long ago. Not the Trump Tower, but I could see it. It's always there. It's always looming in the background of fucking everything.
Yeah, was that the first that it did that? I think. I
don't know if it was the first. And I can't. I think the New Orleans attack happened before.
Yeah. Anyway, regardless, 2025 has just decided to go mask off. 2025 knows writers who use subtlety, and they're all cowards, or subtext, and they are all cowards.
And also, thankfully, it was a Cybertruck, or the explosion would have been so much. The whole Vegas Strip would have probably gone up in a mushroom cloud if it hadn't been contained within the armored exterior. The indestructible stainless steel of which my bathroom sink is made, kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Saved a lot of people from death, I'm sure. Thanks, Elon. You're a king.
I don't even feel good about you saying that as an obvious satire joke. And I mean, we watched Robocop this week, so I'm pretty attuned to picking out the satire. Sometimes things just go too far.
Saying Elon, you're a king was gross in my mouth.
Yeah.
It tasted bad.
Yeah, I bet.
That was just a suicide, right? That was just a dramatic suicide at the end of the day.
It seems likely. I have seen reports saying that the explosion was, in fact, a bunch of literal fireworks.
Yeah. It didn't seem like he was necessarily trying to hurt anybody. He was just trying to make a big scene.
Just trying to hammer home a metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I don't know the guy's motivations, so don't. Yeah. So obviously take what we're saying with a grain of salt, but that's what it looks like. Good job. I guess you did it.
I think the most, yeah, good job.
You're dead now, so you're better off than some of us.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is paired with the much more horrific New Orleans dude driving onto Bourbon Street, running over people, and then failing to detonate a bomb.
Yeah. That one's much less funny.
Yeah, much less funny. They do provide some interesting contrasts. In that, there's been a real variance in coverage, news-wise, between the two things. The New Orleans guy, there were reporters in his apartment while the police were there.
Really?
And they were like, hey, look at this Koran, and broadcast it.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Las Vegas guy, where we're like, I don't know, he was just a loner. He's just a lone wolf. We can't make a difference. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And the New Orleans guy was repeatedly, according to the news, born in Texas, as a, which language-wise, semiotically implies he was born in Texas, not necessarily an American.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. The fact that they're pointing out where he was born, because I don't know. I know he was born in Texas. I don't know where the Trump Tower guy was born.
Yeah.
Because it's never been mentioned, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because he's a white guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a white guy. He was obviously born here and deserves to be here, and was a lone wolf, and he's not the cause of, it's not terrorism.
They could be saying that to get ahead of it, to be like knowing people are going to assume Muslim that he's an immigrant. Maybe they're trying to get ahead of it and be like, no, he's not. But
I mean, arguably the correct way to do that would be to say an American citizen.
True. Yeah. I don't know. It's fun. I don't think it's going to stop. I think this is going to be the new normal. And that's life in 2025. Welcome to it. We all wanted a cyberpunk dystopia. That's why we're fans of this genre. So we're getting it.
Yeah. I mean, if it takes pressure off of schools, then good.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take 1,000 bombs outside of a Trump hotel over one school shooting any day. So
yeah, exactly. Oh God, I just caught a flash of a terrible moral calculus in my brain.
Like a trolley problem.
Yeah, it really is. Like, okay,
you can deflect the trolley from this one school and blow up 1 million Trump hotels.
Mentally, over the past 15 years, decade, we've really hammered home on the idea of terrorism in America is something that happens in schools.
Yeah,
so we've sort of segregated that. But so what's better? School shooter or a guy going to a random mall and shooting?
I don't want to talk about this.
I know that is exactly like that whole thing just flashed in front of my eyes.
I mean, my brain makes
hate
one way seems definitely better, but then you think about it and you're like, oh, but I don't want. No,
it's not.
It's
good.
a real trolley problem, and I don't like it.
It's bad.
Let's maybe provide people with what they need and just cut down on all of these.
Yeah,
that's an idea.
Yeah.
Good times. Let's talk about recommendos. What do you say? I think we hit it.
Yeah, I would say so. I was trying to think if there was any more dystopia stuff, but there isn't, other than I mean, maybe the funniest thing, if people haven't started following yet, is the Elon's fucking sock puppet account.
Oh man,
just getting owned and owned and owned.
The recordings of him on Fortnite, which might or might not have been him. I don't know what it is at this point. It's hilarious though.
Yeah, he is getting eaten alive by fucking Gen Z.
Yeah, and I've heard it said, I don't know what's more pathetic, that Elon has a sock puppet account he uses to go and pump himself up, or that somebody is obsessed enough with Elon to develop a perfect interpretation of him and go around pretending to be him on the internet.
Yeah.
But they're both pathetic. That man is pathetic. If you like him, you need to reevaluate that. Figure out why you like that guy so much, because he's a fucking loser.
Yeah. And I think that whole thing is a little much to be able to fully relay on this podcast when we've already had some fun bombing talk. So go look it up. Adam Dittman, Ditman, I think is his sock puppet name. Adrian Dittman.
Yeah, I think it's Adrian.
Yeah. So if you're interested in it, look it up.
Just Google Elon sock puppet and you will probably get your answers, and also some probably weird shit.
Yeah, that's true.
Recommendos. I only have one. I'll blast it out and then you can do whatever you have.
All right, cool.
My one recommendo, and I will preface it by saying I know it's owned by a giant company. Sure. And they're terrible and they're sucking all the joy out of everything. But the first-person competitive shooter video game market is a desert that all us players are crawling through, desperate for a drop of water. And Marvel Rivals is like, it's like a 5-gallon bucket of tepid water sitting on a dune, and it's been really fun to drink. I don't know how long it's going to last. It's not the best thing ever, but it's a lot of fun at the moment. So
I had no idea that was a shooter.
Oh yeah, it's like an Overwatch style. Huh. I say Overwatch style. It is an Overwatch clone, competitive shooter with Marvel characters instead of Overwatch characters.
Huh. What's your favorite character?
I'm a healer, so I like Luna Snow. When I'm tanking, I play Venom.
Okay, sure.
So, and then I like Spider-Man's really fun, but I'm really bad with him. He's a DPS dude.
Oh,
he swings around a lot. It's fun.
I really like. Okay, number one, I'm deeply unfamiliar with the with FPSs for the past, I don't know, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
But based on my understanding of FPSs, I would not have assumed Spiderman would be a DPS.
He's an assassin class, so he dies very fast, but he can swing onto the back line, pick out a healer, and like combo them really quickly. So you can just basically go pick off individuals.
Yeah, I can see how that would work.
Unlike someone like the Punisher, who can set up a turret and just like blast into a crowd and really just do lots of damage. Spider-Man's more of a Spider-Man is more of a pick out a guy, eliminate them, and get the fuck out.
Okay. Huh.
It's a fun game. There's a lot of different ways to play in different styles. I'm not a Marvel fan, but I am a fan of good gameplay. So,
okay. Yeah.
That's mine.
All right. I got a couple. But two of them are like hour-long TV things. Number one, Kunk on Life came out.
Okay.
It's the new Philomena Kunk thing.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Same, effectively the same as Kunk on Earth.
Netflix, I'm guessing. You getting a call?
No, I forgot to turn off my notifications.
Okay. I will do that now as well.
Yeah, Kunk on Life, fun. It's maybe a little bit meaner than the previous ones.
Nice.
And there are some extended bits that go real fucking hard. So, yeah, recommendo for Philomena Kunk and Kunk on Life.
All right.
Number two, I watched Gladiator 2.
Okay.
Not a great movie. I do recommend watching it for the Denzel performance. I wish ending Gladiator 2 I felt the same way about it that I kind of did when watching Solo. Was that 6 years ago? Where I was like, damn, I really wish they just made a fucking Lando Calrissian movie with Donald Glover.
Mm-hmm.
Denzel is fucking chewing scenery and having seemingly the most fun of his life.
That's awesome. I love Denzel.
He is just killing it.
It's sad that probably his only showing on our show is a bad movie, but
yeah.
Let it be known we're fans.
Yeah, we really are. It's highly recommended. The fact that it is a gladiator movie and is the least interesting part of it. And I like Paul Mescal. I mean, I don't know, at this point, does anybody not?
Yeah, he seems awesome.
I think he is miscast in the film, and his part of the movie is just kind of a, well, I guess you had to do that because it's called Gladiator 2.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, the Denzel movie I invented in my mind, over the course of watching this film, is so much more fun and interesting and different. But I do recommend the movie because Denzel fun. Ridley, as per usual, shot the shit out of it. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff.
My wife was watching it as I was playing Marvel Rivals, and she did not seem to care for it either.
Yeah, it's, I'm always kind of rooting for Ridley because even in the movies that he does that aren't good, you still see these flashes of, man, that guy can compose a fucking shot. Or, oh, I like this question that he has set up the entire movie to ask. He doesn't have an answer for it, but I like the way he's asking the question.
Yeah.
And this movie, I don't know, I just felt kind of blah, except for he was like, I'm going to hire Denzel and let him go absolutely fucking crazy.
I keep seeing clips of that movie Flight on TikTok.
Oh,
which I've not seen, but want to. But it's like Denzel talking about all the times he was drunk has kind of become viral on TikTok.
I believe that.
And it's very good. In fact, I am drunk right now.
It is not it's definitely not a great movie. I am 50-50 on whether or not to call it a good movie. But Denzel and John Goodman is in it. He has a fucking ponytail.
Nice.
He I can't remember exactly the context, but there is a scene of him walking down and I think it's an airport hallway with two duffel bags that are both completely full of fucking drugs and booze, and Sympathy for the Devil is playing. Nice. And you're like, well, I mean, that's John Goodman. Great.
Yeah. I need to watch it one day. Anyway, do you have any more? Or do you have
I have one more. It is directly related to our show.
Okay.
A little while back, I think it was in response to me mentioning Chris Grace as Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
As a recommendo. One of our listeners recommended Courtney Perusso's comedy special Vanessa 5000 on Dropout.
Mm-hmm.
Strongly recommend it for our show specifically. It is a, roughly hour stand-up comedy thing. It's also kind of performance art. The structure of it is the product launch for the world's most advanced sex bot, Vanessa 5000. It is deeply cyberpunk.
Okay.
I
mean, it seems like it's named after Cherry 2000, so...
it's not far off of that. It's got a bunch of fucking ideas in it. And it's as far as I know, there isn't another one, but this would be my absolute top favorite cyberpunk stand-up special.
Oh, nice.
It's on Dropout, and it is very cyberpunk. It's also, pretty filthy, because it's a sex bot.
Yeah.
But really funny and kind of heartfelt. There's some musical numbers.
Dropout needs to get a PS5 app so I can watch this shit.
Ah, okay, yeah.
I don't want to watch it on my computer. I want to watch it on my TV.
Yeah, I hate watching things on my computer.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, so strong recommendo for that for, I mean, everybody. Everybody who's listening to this show, at least.
All right. Will that complete our recommendos portion? Is it time for our Robocop amendos portion?
Robocop amendos. Number 1, I recommend Robocop.
Recommend Robocop 1.
Yes, very specifically. Yeah, I think we can move on to the Robocop portion of our program.
I am excited that we can now cover the later Robocops as well.
Woof. I have dim memories of the second and third Robocop films.
I remember some laughs. I remember laughing at some parts.
Eesh, I don't remember any laughs at all. Well, okay, I do remember a couple of laughs in the second one.
Yeah, there's a scene where like lining up all the Robocop replacements and they're all fucking up in funny ways.
I think that in my memory, that is the only part of that movie that provides any actual entertainment.
Damn.
I could be proven wrong, but...
All right, well, we are watching Paul Verhoeven's 1987 Masterpiece, sure. Definitely cyberpunk, although maybe not in a traditional way.
Yeah.
I don't know, a little less punk. I don't know. It's hard to... We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Starring Peter Weller. And some other people.
Kurtwood Smith, Ray Wise, Ronnie Cox, Miguel Ferrer.
Oh, yeah. Who's the
Nancy Allen?
Partner? Nancy Allen, that's it.
Yeah.
I should pull up the IMDb page.
Oh, that seems like a good idea. Why don't we all do that?
Yes. If you're sitting at home, pull up IMDb on RoboCop, read that, and we'll call this one a wrap. Next week, we've got...
Honestly, not to go overboard on myself, but I do think this is probably Paul Verhoeven's masterpiece.
Yeah. What else has he done? Let's look. I know he did Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Number 1, his immediate follow-up to this film was, in fact, Total Recall.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I love that movie.
I think that's fair, but I think this is a better film. He also did Basic Instinct, Showgirls,
Starship Troopers, Hollow Man.
Yeah. I think, and also a bunch of Turkish movies, I was looking at IMDb, a bunch of Danish movies before this, one of which is Turkish Delight.
Yeah.
Which is a really good movie. And so I think in my mind, and I have not seen his entire filmography, especially a lot of the Danish stuff, but I would say that Robocop, then maybe Soldier of Orange, which is a drama about a bunch of Danish, like basically college student aged people in World War II, that would be his second best, and then Total Recall, because Total Recall fucking rules.
What about The Fourth Man? Isn't that supposed to be good?
I have not seen that one. You might be thinking of The Third Man.
Maybe I am. Well, it's got 7.2 on IMDb, which is pretty good, decent.
Oh, it's got Jerome Krab, who is one of the stars of Soldier of Orange. Yeah, you're probably thinking of The Third Man, which is one of the great film noirs of all time.
Okay.
And
anytime there's a man
extensively.
It's also he also did The Hitchhiker TV series.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, whether it's his best or not remains to be seen. We'll do cover Total Recall at one point, and maybe I'll consider that a masterpiece. They're only 1.1 star different on IMDb.
Yeah.
I think Total Recall's we'll get on the Total Recall when we do it. Having never, to your knowledge, seen the entire film before, how did you feel about RoboCop? I thought it was fantastic. I don't recall if I've ever seen it all before or not. I don't think I've sat down and watched it all in one setting. I've definitely seen large
bits
swaths
and pieces,
of it.
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. But as an entire movie, it comes together real well. And I watched the director's cut on Max. Is that what you watched?
Yes.
I don't know what the difference between that and the theatrical cut is. It was an hour and 44. Didn't seem too long at all. It seemed perfectly paced, honestly. And no complaints other than that. Like sometimes while I was watching it, and I was watching like these emotional moments, like as Robocop was being betrayed by his police force, and like, poor Robocop. And I'm like, this is a goofy guy in a plastic suit.
It is.
The absurdity of it got to me a couple of times, but then I just like put it aside and be like, fuck it. It's a story, and this guy has this is a real guy. So
he is the American Jesus.
So I thought it was great. Now I don't know, is RoboCop propaganda? I guess that's something we'll get into.
That's an interesting question.
Because it doesn't some of the cops, it's definitely not an ACAB movie, I'll put it that way, because some of the cops are definitely good.
Yeah. I also watched the director's unrated cut. And I had seen it before because it was like, this was one of the very early Criterion collection movies.
Oh, really?
Like back in the Blu-ray or not Blu-ray, Laserdisc days. And then it got reprinted on DVD, which is the last time I saw it. So probably like, I don't know, 2001.
Yeah.
We were living on Sylvan Street. I remember.
Yes, I probably walked through the room and watched some of it, and then went and played some stupid video game on my computer.
Yeah. The only, as far as I understand it, the only real differences between the director's cut and the not director's cut are, it's like 45 seconds total over the course of the movie. And the vast majority of it is just alternate shots or extended shots of basically gore and blood.
Okay.
And I do, having looked up a couple of YouTube comparisons, the director's cut is much better because I think I said it to you on text or maybe on a Discord. The director's cut being much gorier makes this a much better and funnier movie.
Yes, the gore is hilarious. I mean,
it really is. It's amplified to Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness levels.
That first kill in the boardroom is so fucking funny. And like very gory, like very graphic.
It is hysterically funny.
Even my wife, who is not into gore and body horror stuff, was laughing and loved that scene. And it's not like you're supposed to laugh. I don't know. I think it's done really well.
And the not director's cut version is, I don't know, less than half the length of time in terms of shooting it.
Yeah.
Shooting him. And it comes off as worse and like more horrible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like,
that's interesting.
That's kind of the thing with like one of the other major scenes that's very different is when, and we'll get to it, but when Murphy gets killed, quote marks.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's so brutal.
Yeah. And it
goes on so long.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the thing. It's like the stepping on rakes gag.
Yeah.
Like,
and then he's like still alive and they shoot him in the head. And you're like, well, he's definitely dead now. And then he's like, well, nope. Now he's in the ER. So he's dead.
Yep.
When is this motherfucker going to die?
Yeah. Poor bastard. Okay. So RoboCop 1987. How's it start? The way the best movies start, with block text that say RoboCop.
Yeah. All the greats.
And it, just in case you listeners were unaware of it, RoboCop is short for Robert Policeman.
Yes.
So there's a helo shot coming over Detroit, and you're like, wow, this is, a city in the future, quote marks, because the future looks like Dallas circa 1986.
Yeah.
And then we cut immediately into the beginnings of the fact that this movie is obvious and hilarious satire, some news and commercials.
Which are peppered throughout the whole film. And are really great.
And just hateful in terms of how accurate they are.
So much. The prescience rating is off the charts on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's more real than real. So we watch something that nowadays does not seem absurd or weird at all. It's a couple of chirpy fucking news anchors who are delivering the most horrible news in the world, and then they pivot to, man, there was a fluffy bunny costume contest this weekend, in like the same breath as they're talking about how there's currently a war going on in South Africa, and Johannesburg has demonstrated that it has a neutron bomb and is going to use it as a last line of defense for the city.
They're talking about nuclear war.
Yeah, not just nuclear war, but a neutron bomb.
There's so many. I think it's a later one, but I'm going to jump ahead. Where they're like,
meltdown?
Something fell out of the sky and 6 American presidents were killed. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's the space laser misfires.
Yeah. A day of mourning in the United States. Oh, man.
It is so... The killing thing about it is that, like, if I was in a fucking hotel room watching TV and I was just flipping channels and ended up on a news channel, I wouldn't fucking blink at it.
No,
at all.
The few times I stop on CNN or MSNBC, basically always in a hotel room, it seems exactly like this. It's strange.
And thinking this movie really, because I saw it at a truly disturbingly young age.
Dude, that's been a through line, by the way.
It really has.
Everybody I've talked to and said we're doing Robocop, 3 people, yeah. But still, saw this way too young. And I think it was marketed not necessarily to kids, but in a way.
Yeah. It was an action movie.
Right.
As opposed to the bloodiest, most horrible thing in the world.
It's interesting how many people said they saw this way too young.
Yeah, I have very distinct memories of not seeing the movie, but very distinct memories of playing Robocop on the playground at the grade school I went to before I moved to Emporia in 1988.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
So it was like, I'm certain that my parents were not so disturbed that they took me to the fucking theater to see this, but it must have been it was on video. It must have been a, video store rental. And
I'm guessing it's one of the first movies to really benefit from video.
I think it did. I didn't actually see any numbers or anything on that, but I bet it did. So it really took me back in time to 1987, 88, and reminded me like, oh yeah, this type of news program was unthinkably strange back then. I mean,
although if you'll recall, like hard copy and shit like that was starting to come out, which is eventually parodied, I believe, in Predator 2 pretty well.
That is correct.
By a guy who was actually doing it in real. Anyway, but it wasn't like now it's 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, 87 was CNN and headline news, 24-hour news coverage existed then, but what I remember of CNN back then was not the tone is totally different from what we're seeing in Robocop and what we're seeing in the modern world. It's truly wild. So anyway, we also get some stuff like the most horrible bit about this intro section is there's a commercial for a heart replacement therapy center, mentioning all the brands they carry, which is another thing that struck me as completely and utterly insane in the context of 1987. 1987, there were federal regulations against advertising pharmaceuticals on television.
Well, our boy RFK Jr. is going to bring that back.
Yeah, it wasn't until 89, I think, or 91 that pharmaceuticals could be advertised on TV.
Talk about sitting in a hotel room. When I had a few hours in a hotel room a few weeks ago, and that is the only thing they advertise is pharmaceuticals these days. Like pharmaceuticals and lawyers. Like there's just nothing else. It's bizarre to watch. It's disgusting to watch TV these days and see the commercials that come up.
Yeah, and I hate saying that and feeling that because it makes me feel like an old.
It does. I know.
Like, it really makes me feel like my fucking grandfather. Oh, these days, blah, blah, blah.
But nobody younger than us is watching TV. Like, who's watching TV? Who's flipping channels if you're not in a hotel room? That's literally the only place I've ever done it.
Yeah. So other things we see on the news is that 3 cops got killed in Detroit. One maybe is like in intensive care. And, the crime boss of old Detroit, Clarence Boddicker, is mentioned. He definitely won't come back.
Yeah. Looks remarkably like the dad from That 70s Show.
I have never seen That 70s Show. And but having watched this again kind of makes me want to.
Well, he's the one of like 2 cast members that isn't a piece of shit, as far as I know.
Yeah, that seems correct. So then we go to the first scene of the movie proper. After 20 minutes of us having a conversation, we go to a police station. It's Detroit Metro West. Shit's tough out here. We see a sergeant yelling at a lawyer that looks exactly like Bill Hader.
Yeah.
And we are introduced to Peter Weller, who plays Murphy, who is reporting for his first day of work, having been transferred there by OCP, the company that now owns the police.
Yeah. This is our first cyberpunk dystopia, like truly cyberpunk feeling moment, I felt like.
Yeah.
They sold the police to a corporation.
Yeah, they sold the police to the cops.
To the corpse.
They sold the cops to the corpse.
Yeah. There you go.
And cop corpses? Cop corpse? This movie centers around a cop corpse.
Cop corpse employed by a cop corp.
Oh my God.
Fuck.
I think this is the clip you need to pull out and post.
Yeah.
Cop corp. And this shot is like, this is actually really interesting and a really good piece of filmmaking. Like, we enter what effectively amounts to the same police station from Beverly Hills Cop.
Mm-hmm. It's very familiar if you watch movies in the 80s.
Yeah, if you watch movies or TV in the 80s.
There's always a ton of hookers hanging around flirting with everybody they walk past, because clearly when you're a hooker and you get arrested, you want to drum up some business while you're waiting to be processed. I don't know.
Yes, 1000%. So it's exactly the same police station you've seen a million times on TV back in 1987. But they do something really interesting with it. Paul Verhoeven hired, what is the guy's name? His cinematographer on this film, whose name I'll find in a moment. They shot it in a very documentary style.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole intro shot of the police station, like up until I think the end of the locker room thing, is one long tracking shot. It's just a dude with a camera following Murphy, leading Murphy through part of it, through this police station, which it's a handheld without a ton of, jiggle and shutter. Jost Vacano is the guy's name. So it does a really good job of immersing you in this. It separates, it gives you a little bit of separation from this is a police station I've seen on TV to this is the real version of a police station I've seen on TV. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And it's also just clever and cool filmmaking. It's not one of the big showy tracking shots like you see in, in a lot of
I didn't even
stuff.
notice it, honestly.
Yeah, it's all the way into and through the fucking locker room. All that dialogue about how, that one cop with the mustache is yelling like, we should fucking strike.
Yeah.
And, it goes right up to the point where the sergeant comes into the locker room, pulls the name tag off of the dead cop's locker. Because there's a close-up insert of the name tag being pulled off. But it really immerses you in, there's just all sorts of shit going on. All these cops are really overstressed.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows exactly what's going on because they're owned by some fucking corporation. Peter Weller doesn't actually know why he's been moved here because he was at a different station, but I don't know. OCP says now you're at Metro West, so you go to fucking Metro West. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And also
Metro West is apparently the really rough one, it seems like.
Yeah.
That's where the guys are dying and everything, so.
Yeah. And also something that you see through this scene is the cops are not cops from 1987. All of these cops are always wearing fucking bulletproof vests and riot helmets. They are much more like cops circa 2024.
Yeah, they really are.
It's a really, I am annoyed that Edward Neumeier and the other writer and Paul Verhoeven were entirely able to see the militarization of the police oncoming. And we were unable to look at this and see that message. And say,
I'm
hey, that's a bad
sure
thing.
It was surely starting in 87. Like, I'm not an expert.
Oh, it was definitely starting. It really kind of kicked off in the early 80s in LA and Miami with the SWAT teams getting lots of attention.
Yeah, and then I'm sure after the LA riots, it really kicked off into overdrive.
Yeah.
But that hadn't happened yet.
Yeah. Oh, and also one minor thing that we'll see a while later is that something that was really unusual looking at the movie, thinking back to 1987, is that the cops all have semi-automatic pistols. Like, there's not I don't think there is a revolver in this movie.
No, not that I can recall.
And in 1987, I don't have any actual numbers. I would say somewhere north of 70% of police forces still issued revolvers, just as a rule.
Interesting.
Some
of the cops have automatic pistols.
Yeah. So we go through all this. We get introduced to Peter Weller, who is just the other side of attractive guy.
My wife said she had a crush on him when she was young.
I totally get that.
It's all in the jawline, though. Like, they cast him based solely on jawline because that would be the prominent thing in the movie.
Yeah, he's got the jawline and these little fucking Cupid's bow mouth. Yeah, I've always found Peter Weller to be like, he's like, all of his features make him attractive, but somehow like things are just slightly off enough that he passes a hair over the line. Like, something's going on there. Yeah. And if you know anything about Peter Weller, he is a crazy person.
Is he a pussy hound?
He is also a pussy hound.
We're not just saying that's a quote from a documentary.
Yes.
That Josh sent me a screenshot of.
Yes. Peter Weller, clearly an insane person, great actor. I've enjoyed him in many movies. We will see him again on this show, even outside of Robocop 2. And he is your all-American good police boy. When his partner is introduced, played by Nancy Allen, Officer Lewis, she fucking kung fu's the shit out of a guy in custody because, cop, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And Peter Weller says, "That's neat," or "That was pretty neat."
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, this is the Superman Boy Scout.
Yeah, for sure.
And Nancy Allen does great work in this movie. And she's beautiful. There are not a ton of other points in the movie where she will probably be specifically called out, but she does some really good work, and I want to nail that right up at the top.
Also, it's been mentioned before, but what's with Verhoeven's co-ed locker room scenes?
He really specifically, Paul okay, my short biography.
It's got to be short because we're already going long.
Yeah. Short biography of Paul Verhoeven. He was born in, I want to say 1940 in the Netherlands in, the occupied, 38. Okay. So he was born slightly before the Netherlands were occupied by the Nazis.
Yeah.
And he saw a lot of the horrors of war very up close. And then in the 60s and 70s kind of became like an art hippie. And like through part of that, he became a, what would now be obviously, would be called like, oh, obviously he is, kind of a feminist, not a gender essentialist guy at all. He's like, he's in the sort of more open post-war Europe thing, if that makes sense. So nudity is not tremendously, like, it's not sexualized or anything like that. And he finds that weird about America, so he throws it in our faces. Yeah.
Fair.
He's like, look, a sane place has co-ed showers and locker rooms, because if you see a tit, you're not going to become a sexual assault monster.
Right.
Apparently during there was another part of the co-ed shower scene that was cut, and apparently to get the American actors comfortable with it, he and the cinematographer both stripped down naked to shoot it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Apparently the cinematographer, this was mentioned on the documentary I watched, grew up in a nudist colony. So it was very easy for him.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, Nancy Allen's great. She's got beautiful cheeks.
Princess Di haircut.
And yes, which was apparently there was a huge debate over that going into production.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah, they were Verhoeven wanted to make a point of not making her overly sexualized, because like the idea that, okay, she's in this police helmet, she kung fu's this guy and then pulls the helmet off and her hair cascades beautifully down her.
That's very cliche. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't want any of that. He wanted he and the screenwriter, Edward Neumeier, wanted the relationship between her and Robo to not be sexual, like at least not automatically sexual in any way.
Yeah, they touch on it at some point, but not. Yeah.
Yeah. So Murphy is now her partner. They're gonna go on a patrol, and she's gonna show them around. And the cop cars are all matte black Ford Tauri.
Ford Taurus, yes.
The most futuristic car in the world in 1986 when
I
were shooting this.
I remember thinking those cars look different when they came out. Like I was young, but I still remember like they had the bubble, they had the round. They didn't look like the square boxy cars.
Yeah.
Everything else did. So
yeah,
I get why they used them.
They were truly wild. Like I remember one of the kids I went to school with, his parents got one like right when they came out. And I remember him being dropped off at school in it. And it was a truly wild looking fucking car in the sea of like Caprices and
K cars and boxy Lincolns.
Yeah, it was a truly wild car. Like it really looked like, oh, Well, obviously, we're in the future now. Like, the next generation of that car is obviously going to fly.
Does Taurus does Ford Taurus get credit for the styling change that happened in the 90s?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I never really paid attention, but
it's that like 1986 Ford Taurus is one of the most important most important and influential cars of the back half of the 20th century. Even though, and like, I mean, they were fine. They were fine edging on shitty.
They ought to name a high school after that Iacocca guy.
Oh, yeah.
They do in the movie.
They do in the movie. Yeah, it's good. The funny thing about the Ford Tauri patrol vehicles in this is that, okay, the original, we'll get to the Robocop armor in a little while, but originally Robocop was going to be in something that in the script is described and called his turbo cruiser. And it's going to be this fucking custom built, fucking jet powered, crazy bullshit. And that's what Robocop is going to spend the whole movie driving around in. All the rest of the police will be in their Tauruses or whatever. But But what they found out when they went to start shooting the movie with the Robocop costume is that the car they built did not fit the Robocop costume.
Is this the 6000 SUX?
This is the 6000 SUX.
Okay. So they just pivoted and just made it a commercial going on in the background so they didn't waste the car?
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Robocop would not fit in that car. So they were like, well, I don't know. We got all these Tauruses. Will that work? And it turned out it did if they took its pants off.
Yeah, he sits in his top armor. I saw that in the trivia.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got to get this movie moving forward.
We're moving on. Okay, so they're going out on patrol. Then we cut to, there's a board meeting in a big fancy tower. Miguel Ferrer is there. And Miguel Ferrer is perfect in this movie, as he is in most everything.
Yeah, I've never really thought that he shouldn't be in a movie he's in.
Yeah, it's tough. He plays the character Bob Morgan.
All right, they're going last year, I believe. Maybe the year before.
No, a couple of years ago.
Okay,
he
recent.
Died. Yeah, it was recent. He died right before Twin Peaks: The Return aired in 2017. Yeah, he's going to a board meeting for this company, OCP, Omni Consumer Products. They're the ones who own the police. And it's going to be fucking great. They're going to bulldoze old Detroit, the old downtown, to build their cool new city of the future, Delta City. And it's going to have tax structures and an economy ideal for corporate growth.
2 million new jobs.
Yeah. And we get introduced to Dick Jones, who is the villain of the movie. Or
also the villain of Total Recall.
Also the villain of Total Recall. Also the fairly nice commanding officer in Beverly Hills Cop, as I mentioned.
Nice. He's a familiar face to me, although
he was in
know his name.
9 million things from like 1970 to 2010.
Yeah. Good villain.
Yeah. And prior to this, he didn't really work as a villain at all. Like, ever. He was always the nice guy. He was also in Twin Peaks. Don't worry about it. So he gives a nice presentation about how now that we've taken on the police, we're going to roll out this cool new thing, and introduces our cool robot, notably not named Robocop, ED-209. And it is very exciting. They open up some doors, and this giant fucking robot in stop motion walks in, and it's beautiful.
It's great. It's a mech. It's a mini mech.
Yeah, and the stop motion is just a fucking chef's kiss. I was watching this thing in stop motion. Made me think, man, we used to be a fucking country.
Like to make movies in this place.
Yeah, no shit.
Stop motion Ed 209s and 1 million gremlin puppets.
I know. Really.
Used to accomplish things.
Yeah. And the stop motion was all done by a guy named Phil Tippett, who is pretty famous. He worked on the Star Wars movies. He did the Tauntaun and the Walkers and stuff like that.
Awesome.
He is also the basis for the Nick Nolte character in 2 years ago, in the episode of Poker Face.
Oh, great episode, great character. That's probably my favorite episode of that show, actually.
Yeah, it was a really solid one. And he actually put out a movie 2 years ago called something Gods, Mad God, something like that. Which is apparently great. I haven't seen it. It's all stop motion. The dude's apparently kind of a lunatic for this type of stuff, but fucking incredible artist. The Ed 209 stop motion is just amazing. Dick demonstrates Ed 209 to the corporate board, saying like, look what we got here. We've already got a bunch of military contracts in place. As soon as we proof this by rolling out the police version, they're going to buy the shit out of the thing. Check this out. Hey, Kenny, take this gun and be threatening about it. And this junior board member goes like, stick him up or something. And then Ed 209, after failing to recognize that the board guy put the gun down, Ed 209 shoots Kinney for a solid 14.4 seconds.
Did you time it?
Yes, I did. with like 4 20-millimeter cannons.
Yeah.
It is.
There's a great moment of fear as he's like realizes what's happening and tries to run, and everybody's like in the boardroom is screaming.
And they're all like, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
And it goes on so far past the point of
painful.
Being, yeah.
Like the squibs going off.
It was. They ended up shooting that scene, I think 3 times. The squib portion of it. Because they shot it like twice, day 5 or whatever of the movie. And then once they got the dailies back and saw the completed thing, Paul Verhoeven was like, I don't know, that's not enough blood. We got to do some more. And then called him in for reshoots like months later.
Oh, he was not happy about that call, I'm sure.
And apparently one of the very last shots, the squib was like in his upper leg, and the way he had landed, like falling back onto the model of Delta City, the squib was right on his fucking nut when it went off. It was the very last squib to go.
Yeah. I could see like some of the, and I knew it had to hurt as I was watching it. Because there's enough time for you to watch, oh, this is hilarious. This guy's getting shot. Wow, that's so brutal. This is fake. I wonder what it was like to be that guy. Like, you've got enough time because the shooting goes on and on.
It goes on and on and on. It really is it's like watching this movie and the gore in this movie, all it made me think of was just repeatedly Army of Darkness, the fucking pit.
Yeah.
Where like, you're like, okay, the guy gets shoved in the pit. Oh, they're screaming. Okay, so nothing horrible goes down there. And then geyser of blood.
Yeah.
That goes on way too long.
My favorite part of the scene actually is how everybody's just back to business as usual afterward. Mm-hmm. It just does a great job of showing the corporate culture. Like the most horrific thing you've ever seen happens, and then everybody's like, "Oh, back to business." Even the CEO is like,
"Yeah,
well, this is going to lose us money."
Yeah, the president of the company or CEO, the old man, I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
says, "I'm very disappointed, Dick."
Yeah. I'm not incredibly disturbed. I'm very disappointed.
And then Miguel Ferrer, being corporate slime, says, hey, since this program, this Ed 209 thing, it clearly isn't working out very well, I've been developing this backup idea. It's called Robocop. And the old man is like, well, how fast can we spin it up? And Miguel Ferrer is like, we already did some work to get supplies in place. We're just waiting for some volunteers. And
this is your explanation of why Murphy got moved, by the way.
Yeah, it is. And the old man's like, great, let's see it. And see it as soon as you can get it. And Dick Jones, again, the villain, is pissed off about this because Ed 209 was his baby. Anyway, we're and they all go back to like, there's a lot of congratulating people and like, man, it's rough what happened to Kenny. Yeah, that's life in the big city.
Yeah. You will not be surprised to realize that I fucking love Miguel Ferrer in this movie.
Oh, dude, he's
only got a couple scenes, but they're all so fucking good.
They are beautiful, and just everything he does is perfect.
Yeah.
I am never not sad that Miguel Ferrer died.
It's fantastic.
Fantastic. Hey, that's the Basil Poldoris, who did the score for this film, also did the score for Hot Shots Part 2.
Nice.
Yeah. So we go back to Murphy and Lewis on their patrol. Murphy's spinning his gun. He talks a little bit with Lewis about how, oh yeah, I got a son. He, this cop on TV spins his gun, and that's why I do it. And so he's got a happy family life. There is none of the what you would expect flirting or anything like that from a 1980s action movie.
Yeah. No,
this is clearly two people who have a job, who do that job together.
Yeah.
And they get a report of a robbery in progress to the Taurus. They're going to get back up in 15 minutes.
20 minutes, I believe. Yeah.
No, it's initially 15. Then
later, it goes up. Okay.
Later, it becomes 20 minutes. So they take off in the Taurus. They're going to do a car chase. They're chasing a silver panel van with the coolest guys in the world in it.
Yeah.
We are introduced to Kurtwood Smith, who, yes, was the dad from that 70s show. He is also Leslie Claret on Patriot.
Oh, yeah, he is. Fuck.
And
all about that.
Yeah, and is in a million other things. Patriot aside, just like 2 weeks ago, they finally released another episode of the structural dynamics of integral flow, whatever. The name, it is the podcast that the writer of Patriot made with Kurtwood Smith doing the voice. It's like a book that is part of the plot of that TV show, if anybody remembers it. The Integral Principles of the Structural Dynamics of Flow. It's very good and serious shit. Like 11 days ago, episode 9 came out.
Okay.
Highly recommend this podcast. It's some weird, fun shit. But also in this van are fucking Ray Wise, pre-Leland Palmer, smiling and cackling like a fucking moron.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's great about this movie is that also the gang is very interracial.
Yeah, they are.
Like, it's really specifically, like, it's some white dudes, a black guy, an Asian guy. It's like they really specifically did not make it these are black gangs thing. So they've just robbed a bank. All the money is burned. Clarence Boddicker, Kurtwood Smith, is angry about this because one of the guys fucked up.
Who's the driver? He looks awful familiar.
Oh, he's been in a million things. The character's name is Emil something.
He's made some facial hair choices. You've heard of the chin beard. This is like a cheek beard where the chin is left unbearded and instead the line is at the cheek level down to the goatee.
So upsetting. Like everything going on with his hair is really bad.
This is the punk. Well, not the punk part of the cyberpunk, but the punk looking. He looks like a punk.
Yeah. The actor's name is Paul McCrane, and let's see. Oh, he was on 126 fucking episodes of ER. Jesus.
Oh, yeah, I can see him in Scrubs. He was like a male nurse or something, I think.
Dr. Robert Romano Romano. Yeah. Huh. Wild. Oh, he was on Barry last year. Yeah, he has a tremendous amount of credits. And
I'm sure they all do.
Yeah, that's true at this point. Oh, he was on some great fucking X-Files episodes as well. So he makes some just like disastrously beautiful choices in terms of hair and makeup.
Yeah, for sure.
I could do exactly that fucking mohawk scenario right now, and my hair is so thin on top. Like, I'm embarrassed about the fact that I could pull that off.
Yeah, it would take some growing out of thin hair to accomplish what he did. I don't.
Yeah, it'd be a good 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Anyway, they're in the back of this fucking van. They've just robbed the bank. They're getting chased by Lewis and Murphy. They open the back doors to shoot the cop car. Turns out cop car's not there because it pulled up beside them. Anyway, they're all armed with shotguns, and they do a little car chase. This action scene actually has a little bit of juice to it, unlike a lot of the other action scenes in the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think in part because this action scene was directed by the second unit director, Monty Hellman, who is actually a great director on his own. He did Two Lane Blacktop in 1982 and Cockfighter, or 72, and I think Cockfighter was like 74. He was a really good director in his own right, but this scene actually has some pop to it, which is kind of unusual because I think in this movie, I don't think Paul Verhoeven is the best or most confident action director. I think he's better at a lot of other stuff, and he did improve over the course of his career, but he's not somebody you hire to do really cool action scenes. They end up throwing the guy who accidentally blew up the money onto the cop car windshield. They shotgun the shit out of everything. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's a fun chase scene.
Yeah. They end up at an abandoned steel mill, which is their base. And this is the point at which we learn it's now going to be 20 minutes before there's backup for Murphy and Lewis. They end up Lewis gets taken out pretty easily by one of the gang members and just kind of knocked out. She's not like seriously injured or anything. Then Murphy tries to make an arrest and is wildly fucking outgunned. 19 guys with shotguns show up and he's got like a pistol.
Pretty ballsy of him to think he could pull that off.
Yeah, it was.
Although he does get to utter his famous line for the first time.
Yes, he says an important line. Fuck me, fuck me.
No,
fuck
that's
me.
not it. That's different.
Oh, okay, sorry. What was the line?
This is dead or alive. You're coming with me.
Yes, and he says that to Emile, the punk guy. Anyway, he gets captured by the gangsters, and all the gangsters are being hilarious, and I love them.
Yeah, they're having a great time, dude. In fact, that's what I was marking to far and watch. Like, it's just a good time with the boys as they brutally murder this guy.
It really is, and I have never heard anything less than like praise of Kurtwood Smith. Like, oh, he is a great guy. He's wonderful to work with, and he's not a guy who plays. Other than this movie, he's not a guy who plays a ton of bad guys, or if he's a bad guy, he's like, the lieutenant that isn't letting the random cop go off and go on a killing spree or whatever. Mm-hmm. He seems to be having so much goddamn fun in every scene in this fucking movie. Like, his line deliveries are just deranged. Like, just no one has ever said these words in this way before. Like, he says, see, the problem is, I got a problem with cops. Cops don't like me, so I don't like cops.
No, he's great.
And they end up just fucking taking Murphy apart with shotguns.
Like, literally, first his hand, then they blow off his arm, then they put like 1,000,000 rounds in his chest, and eventually his face.
Yeah, eventually a headshot. And that is the first appearance of the work done on this movie by a guy who we've met before on this program, Rob Bottin, who also did all the special effects in The Thing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, the the shot of the like last shot of Murphy getting fucking taken apart, where he's just like kneeling, screaming, and then gets shot in the head and falls backwards. That's a Rob Bottin dummy.
Oh, nice. It looks good.
Yeah, it's really good. He also does the Robocop suit and all that stuff. So
important thing is after that, the guys go like skipping off into the sunset.
Yep, they go off to fucking dick around and do some more robbing.
These guys have such a good time before they meet their demise. Every time they're together, it's just a party.
Yeah,
it's their next scene together. It's also very joyful.
It really is.
Which is like in 2 hours of movie, and we have got to hustle.
100 minutes. It's not even 2 hours. I mean, yeah. Okay, so then Murphy dies.
We don't even have a Robocop yet.
Yeah, we haven't met Robocop, and we're 20 minutes in. 30 minutes in.
We're an hour and 20 minutes in.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. So anyway, Murphy gets taken apart by guns, and then he dies, and the screen goes black for 7 solid seconds, which is kind of impressive for a major movie. It's also silent for 7 seconds. And you're like, wow, the movie's over. Shit. Then the movie comes back, except it's not the movie. It's now on video, and it's a POV shot. We just decided to change the movie entirely.
I call this Balatro vision, because if you play, I guess Balatro, it's pronounced. You get those scan lines, I guess is what they're called.
Mm-hmm. There's a pretty interesting process in how they made that in the movie. It wasn't just shooting on video, but I'm not going to go into it because we are very behind. Anyway, there is a beautiful female scientist that I have apparently had a crush on for 35 years.
She is, dude. Like, I noticed it too. And my wife commented on her glasses and how she wants to get a pair of those giant oversized glasses, which are kind of back in style now.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal is, but man, she is a compelling screen presence and was in a total of like, I don't know.
Later on, movies. She's like wearing a skinny tie and like a male suit jacket or something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It works. Whatever she's doing.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. Beautiful woman hired to be a scientist with crazy large glasses.
Oh, and she kisses him at the New Year's Eve party. Yeah. On the eyes for some reason.
Well, on his visor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we are now in POV mode for the next few scenes. We go through the building of Robocop, including, like improving his vision and stuff like that from the viewpoint of Murphy's brain. I guess that's the best way to put it. And
his eyes are one of the few things they didn't replace.
I think I don't know. I think the movie kind of splits on that because he still has the targeting thing even when his visor is off at the end.
True. Yeah. Maybe that's just strictly into it on his retinas or something. Who cares?
Yeah. Who knows? Who cares? Doesn't matter. We're not looking at this movie for the science. We're looking at this movie for the fucking gore.
Yeah. And the satire.
Yeah. And Miguel Ferrer, who's like, I thought we talked about still in this POV shots. I thought we talked about making him fully mechanical. Why'd you keep the arm? And
we saved it, sir.
The female technician was like, yeah, we were able to save the arm. We're pretty happy about that. He's like, I don't know. Do we have to keep the arm? Well, I thought we wanted to make him a whole robot. And then the second executive, who is can't think of the actor's name. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but the black executive who's like Miguel Ferrer's
always smiling.
Always smiling, gives a huge thumbs up at the end of the movie.
Yeah. He's such a strange character, but I love him.
Yeah. He's like, well, I mean, he signed a bunch of waivers when he joined the police force, and he's technically dead, so we can kind of do whatever we want with him. And Miguel Ferrer's like, all right, lose the fucking arm. We want this guy as robot-y as humanly possible. So we... and also Miguel Ferrer gets down real close to the camera and says, "You're gonna be a bad motherfucker."
Yeah, it's true too.
And then we get the debut of Robocop once he is all built and stuff, we see this very cool shot of plastic being lifted off of him, and the camera gets up and starts walking, following people. And the first glimpse you actually get of the, completed Robocop is just in this monitor beside Robocop as he's walking along. He doesn't consider himself at all.
Right.
And they deliver him to the fucking police station. He now appears to be 7 fucking feet tall and like 900 pounds.
Yeah, they really play up the thump when his footsteps hit the ground.
Yeah, that's another very neat thing they did in terms of Foley. All the Foley they did for this is something they went into in the RoboDoc, the making of RoboCop, which is on Amazon Prime now. It's like 4 fucking hours long.
Jesus.
Recommend it if you want to get way too much information about this movie. And they set up that they have a tracking device on him, which is a setup for the end of the second and the entire third act. They take him to the police station, and all the cops are like, "Holy shit, this guy's crazy!" And he has this huge fucking automatic pistol, and he's just
dead ass
blowing shit away. All the cops are like, "Fuck, are they going to replace us with him?" Anyway, he's cool looking, and then he heads out on patrol with initially with one of the apparently funniest scenes in the movie, where he's walking past the sergeant's desk, and I think Miguel Ferrer says he's going to need a car, and the desk sergeant tosses keys to RoboCop, right? And RoboCop catches him out of midair. Yeah. Apparently that took 50 fucking takes.
Oh, he's got a giant suit on.
The gloves on the suit are made of like foam rubber, so he kept like catching the keys, kept catching or hitting his hand, and then they would bounce the fuck off.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It looks cool though. It looks badass.
It was apparently an incredibly long night. It was one of the very first days that he was in costume. And it was just a nightmare. So he goes out on patrol alone. And this is when we get this is when the score first hits by, as I said earlier, Basil Poldoris, who also did the scores for Conan, Hunt for Red October.
A lot of our late 90s gaming sessions were scored by this guy too, playing Shadowrun and Earth Dawn. And
this score clearly owes a lot to Conan, specifically with a lot of kind of banging anvil metal sounds. But it's a great fucking score. I mean, I had forgotten. I don't know if I had ever realized just how hard this score goes until I was watching it this week. So he goes out on patrol in a fucking Taurus. And he goes out and stops a bunch of crime, including one where he goes into the liquor store, gives his most famous catchphrase, "Fuck me, fuck me." There's a guy holding up a liquor store, and RoboCop beats his ass. That's, it's exactly what you'd expect.
Should we mention at this point, everybody in this town watches this dumbass sitcom with this.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yes, that came up in the scene right before Murphy gets dismantled by shotguns.
Yeah. At this point, you've seen it a couple times, and the couple who owns this liquor store are watching it, and it's a weird sitcom where this guy has a catchphrase, "I'll buy that for $1."
I'll buy that
for $1.
It's basically Benny Hill.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And I don't know. I don't know if it's a comment on American media, like what.
Yeah, I think so.
On America consumers of media, but I agree with it if it is a comment.
Apparently, that part was offered to Howard Stern.
Oh, really?
The guy who ends up playing that part, let me see what his name was. He was an LA radio personality.
Okay.
Yeah,
he looks like a radio guy.
Yeah,
really unpleasant dude.
Meaning exactly what that sounds like.
Yeah.
SD Nemeth is the guy's name, and the character's name is Bixby Snyder.
It had like real Idiocracy vibes when you're watching it, and everybody's like laughing, and it's not funny, but everybody's like when he does something.
Yeah. Look at these girls; they've got big boobs. I buy that for $1.
And everybody laughs uproariously. Yeah, like a little prequel of Idiocracy.
Yeah. So yeah,
should
RoboCop.
we cover Idiocracy at some point? It's not cyberpunk. It's definitely dystopia.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly could.
I would like to, just for the fact that, like, I think it's misinterpreted quite a bit. And it'd be interesting to talk about. Anyway,
it wasn't one of my favorite movies when it came out, but if you push for it, sure. I mean, and I haven't seen it since it came out.
There's not really any high tech or low life because that's kind of the opposite of the point. Anyway, we don't need to talk about it anymore.
Yeah. So he saves convenience liquor store from getting robbed. He shoots a street punk in the dick, which is Blonda's favorite.
We can't
portion
just
of the movie.
blow past the best scene in the movie. Come on.
Okay, so RoboCop's driving along. There's a woman getting sexually assaulted by two street punks, with the notable line of "She's got too much hair." And the guy uses a knife to cut off some of her hair, and then the other guy goes, "She's got more hair down there."
They really make the criminals like stupid and cruel to the point of
abysmally
farcical.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Yes. Just like, man, how does this guy remember to keep breathing when he's asleep? That type of stupid.
Yeah. But the guy takes the woman as a human shield, and RoboCop comes up and he does the calculations to know right where between her legs through her skirt to shoot and hit this guy directly in his cack and balls.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious if you're an 8-year-old watching this movie.
I do have that's one of the scenes in this movie that I have a very firm memory of is that.
And the basis for the funniest scene of the RoboCop parody movie where like 500 guys get shot in the balls. Look that up sometime.
Yes. And then he goes to after that, he goes to effectively a Dan White / Harvey Milk scenario where a former city councilman who lost an election is now holding hostages. And it's kill and throws the guy out the window. He doesn't die, by the way. There was a cut scene of him being arrested after he gets thrown out the window.
I like the list of his demands. It was a pretty humorous scene, all told.
He wants a recount. He wants a bigger office. He wants his job back, no matter how the recount goes, and he wants a new car.
And 6,000 SUX, of course.
Yeah, the SWAT guy offers a 6,000 SUX with leather interior. He's like, "Does it have cruise control?"
I want cruise control.
And the SWAT cop says one of the funniest lines that doesn't make any sense in the modern world. "Hell, we'll even throw in a Blaupunkt."
Yeah, I got it.
Like
a high-end radio back then.
That was a super high-end radio in fucking 1987. It means less than nothing now. That's just a wild little bit like Blaupunkt. That is not a name I've heard in a long time. So, RoboCop's now ending crime, basically. Or at least that's what,
projected
that's what we
in 40
get.
days or whatever.
That's what we get from the news and media that it cuts to. Miguel Ferrer is being interviewed on the news, and he says, "Yeah, we're projecting the end of crime in 40 days." And we also, there's a cool game that's basically seems to be like Battleship, but it involves nuclear annihilation of your family members.
I forgot about that one. Get them before they get you with Nukem.
Yeah, and we also see something that our listeners should be very familiar with. Robo, any special message for the kids at home?
Stay out of trouble. Yeah. The old, our old sign-off message before I lost my hard drive. Hey, everybody. So this episode went way longer than either of us expected it to go. I think having the 4-hour documentary to pull info from just gave us a lot more stuff to talk about. So we decided to break it into 2 parts. Second part coming out next week. I think Robocop deserves it, man. We might have underestimated how important and good this movie is when we picked it. So, yeah, next week, check out Robocop Part 2. In the meantime, all the usuals apply. If you're inclined, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Find us on Bluesky at hightechlowlife. Twitter, if you insist. We're still there, although I haven't checked it in a few weeks. And email us hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com if you want to talk about Robocop, and we can get another hour out of it. Thanks very much for listening. I don't have a sign-off quote. Bye.
This has been the High Tech Low Life podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! Everybody, hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.